Hey, good morning, everybody. It's John Wayne Mullins, and I'm Mr. New Dad. I'm excited for today's interview. We're going to be talking with a very good friend of mine, Mr. Dennis LaRue. He is a retired command. No, I'm gonna botch this. He's a U.S. Air Force retired senior master sergeant. He's also a business owner. He's my friend. I've known Dennis for a few years. We were both involved with the John Maxwell organization for a few years, and since then we've become very good friends. We've had some great conversations, and when he learned that I was creating a coaching program and in a community on being a dad, he was one of the first people to really support me and to really volunteer to be interviewed. Dennis is also a faculty coach at the University of Denver, and one of his most prized and one title that he loves is that he's a pops. He's a grandpa, but he's also a dad too. So he has a lot of wisdom to share, and today we'll be talking about one of my very good topics, favorite topics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Dennis in. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, John, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Today's a great day. It's March 29th, and it's my son's first birthday today.
Hey, happy birthday and also happy anniversary to you there, Mr. New Dad. You got year one down.
I survived. We
Good.
survived. We did it.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. I remember year one.
Mm. It's been a year of just growth, of awareness, it's been a fun year. I started working on my journal last night, and I was just trying to write down like everything that I've learned in the last year, and man, it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
And you keep learning.
Yeah.
It's a learning process all the way through.
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm just thinking about this opportunity to be with you today and talk about it. One of the thoughts that came to my mind right away is, we love John Maxwell, and he says everything worthwhile is uphill. And it wasn't until just a few moments ago I realized I've never applied that lesson to being a dad,
Wow. Yeah.
because to be a dad, to be a husband, and to be a dad, and to be a good one, it's always uphill. There's no day you can take a day off as a dad,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
because even my kids are older now.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you, I've got I'll tell you about a little bit about me. I am a dad. I have three children. My youngest of the three is 26. So I've got a 30, soon to be 29, and 26. And I have five grandkids. My oldest, my daughter, has two of those living out in Cali. And my youngest has three of those living here in San Antonio. My middle child, he has said, I ain't ready. I'm not ready. And
And
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
And that
Yeah.
is okay. Wait till
Yeah.
you're ready. So that's my journey. And all of my grandkids call me Pops. The ages of my grandkids right now range from 10 to 2.
Oh wow. Okay.
10 to 2. I got three boys, two girls. Or hold on, two boys, three girls.
Two boys. Okay.
Two
All
boys, three
right.
girls. So they all call me Pops. And just to add a little flavor to it, two of my granddaughters live with me here. One of them is with me one is with me all the time, and one is with me at least 4 days a week.
Oh wow. Okay. That's great.
So it's like being a dad all over again. I'm Pops and Dad at the same time this time, and that's a real challenge. But so that's kind
I'm
of where
sure.
I'm at as far as my journey. For those of you that are watching, Mr. New Dad, you're like, "Who's this Dennis guy?" That's me. That's me in a
Your pops.
nutshell.
I love
I'm
it. I love it, and to tie it back to what you were just saying about how being a dad is being a dad is awesome, but yes, I remember the first time I heard John Maxwell say, everything worthwhile is an uphill battle. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Mhm.
And so you don't follow people downhill, you follow people who are willing to make that uphill challenge. And so, when I think about being a dad, that ties beautifully. So tell me, Dennis, what do you've been a dad, you've been a dad a long time. You've also now are in this season of being pops. What do you love about being a dad, or what did you enjoy most about being a dad?
Wow. The I think what I enjoyed the most about being a dad was seeing my kids, playing with them, creating memories with them, taking them places, and just seeing the wonder in their eyes and at all the new things that they were discovering and giving them experiences um, that we talk about today. We talk about all of my kids, by the way, were born while I was in the military. In
Okay.
fact, my oldest was born while I was in basic training.
Wow.
So when I talk about experiences, whenever the military would move me to a new base, that would become our 7-day vacation. And we would just go and see all kinds of different things. And my kids were stationed overseas with me in England. Living in England for 4 years, they got to see some things that some kids will never ever experience except for looking at it online, virtually, in
Oh, wow.
books,
Yeah.
maybe see it on TV, but they got to see things they didn't. And so those moments right there were important for me as a pops, but I think also as a dad. And I think also one of my favorite things about being a dad is as they're adults now, when they reach out to me and say, "Hey dad, can I need to talk to you about something," or uh, one of my favorite moments happened
Mhm.
last year, and my middle son reached out to me, and we were talking, and he said, "You know what, Dad? Why don't we go through Think and Grow Rich together?" And my kids, to put this in perspective as being a coach, my family has told me over and over again, "Dad, you're a great coach. We just don't like it." Okay. So for my son to say, "Dad, let's go through Think and Grow Rich together," I mean, that really touched my heart in a powerful way. And, my daughter, when I go see her, she says, "Dad, I got a great bookstore we need to go to. We'll go get some coffee and we'll go to this great bookstore." And then that just, she knows my heart and I love to
Wow.
do that. And then my youngest son, when, he knows I like pizza. So every Friday night, he works at a pizza place. He says, "Dad, what do you want?" And I pick it up and I bring it home. And we sit down with with his daughters and my wife, and we all have pizza on a Friday night. And we always
Wow.
let the girls know, "Hey, Papa," that's what they call their dad, "Papa made this pizza for you."
Mm.
And they get all excited and happy. So I think those are my favorite moments, of seeing my kids as adults and seeing them grow individually in different ways, and seeing those memories continue to grow in that way. I think those are my favorite moments
Oh,
as a dad.
wow. I that I can't imagine what going through a study like Think and Grow Rich with my dad, what conversations would stir as a result of going through that. So, for those of you who don't know, can you just share a 30-second, um, you know, 30-second answer to what is Think and Grow Rich?
Think and Grow Rich is the success Bible that all success gurus go back to. Everybody quotes it. Every list I've ever seen puts Think and Grow Rich in their top 25 books to be read of all time when it comes to success. Now, I'm a person of faith, and it took me a very long time to read that book because of the title,
Sure.
which is a limiting belief on my part. It's not. I saw Think and Grow Rich. I'm like, okay, nope, can't read this.
Right.
It goes against my faith. But once I sat and read it and sat under somebody who could teach it to me, I realized right away, boy, I have been missing out.
Right.
And so learning that book and reading it and applying it, and then having my son read it and have the conversations that we had about it and seeing the aha moments that he received from it
Mm-hmm.
were just powerful.
Yeah.
Just powerful. So I highly recommend. And if that's not a book that resonates with you,
Yeah.
get one that does.
Right.
Think about where you were and think about where they're coming and prepare in advance for the things you would like your kids doing and conversations to have.
Mm,
Because right now, I mean, if I could go back in time to when my kids were little, I wouldn't have been as hard on them as I was with those type of things, especially my faith. But also, I would have spent more time, instead of trying to be the drill sergeant, forcing them to read. I would be using a little bit more salt to make it flavorful, salt
mm,
and honey to make that reading more fun and enjoyable, and show them how important this is. And my kids are getting it now, but
yeah.
I wish they would have got it sooner.
Sure. No, that's a great that's powerful, and that's such a great example of thinking about, you know, answering that question of what kind of kids do we want to raise, and that is a great tool to be thinking about. Well, hey, here's a something easy you can do is what are you doing with your kids? Like when you think about quality time, what does that look like? And sitting down and reading a book together about, you know, how to be a better person or how to, you know, live with principle and values. I can't think of a better, whether it's a really good book like Think and Grow Rich. That might be hard for a young person, but
Sure.
it's a great the practicality behind it is such a great uh, tool to be thinking about. So last week we talked about quality time,
Hmm.
and you spent a number of years serving in the military, and thanks for your service. Um, but you shared with me about some tools that you picked up along the way to help you overcome some of those biggest challenges of being a dad, of when you came home and you wanted to spend this quality time with your kids and with your wife and family. And you talked about a routine that you picked up along the way. Can you kind of share with me and can share with the audience, you know, what was that routine that really helped you to prepare when you walked in the door or when you got home to be that present dad?
Yeah, and that's something I think a lot of dads, and I know I struggle with this as a new dad, is how do I transition from work to home? How do I flip that switch? We talk about work-life balance all the time, and how do I do that? How I struggled with it early on, even with my daughter and my son, my first son, are about 13 months apart. So, um, coming home to them, it was, as a new dad, it was probably it was exciting. I couldn't wait to get home. I couldn't wait to drive home, pull in the house, and play with my daughter and see the new things she was learning, and or crawling or walking. All of those things were new and exciting. But one of the things that I realized work was really, I would come home and talk about work, and there's nothing wrong with talking about work. But what I found out is I wanted to leave work at work and keep home at home, and I wanted to keep a boundary between both of them.
Right.
And so how I did that was is and this evolved over time. One of
Sure.
the one of the things that I started doing was, when I got home, before I did anything with the kids or even with my wife, other than, they meet me at the door, "Hi, you know, welcome home, dad." I'd say, "Hey, I'm gonna go into the room and I'm gonna change out of my super suit." That's what I would call my military uniform. I need to change out of my super suit. And so in that 15 minutes of going back to the back room, changing out of my super suit, getting my uniform ready for tomorrow, just getting out the bits and pieces that need to be ready, I would flip that switch and transition from military member to dad and husband. That was the first thing that I did.
Mhm.
But then I realized, as the longer I progressed in my career, that wasn't enough. I couldn't just do that anymore, because the levels of responsibility, and John, you're seeing this as you grow in your military career, as you grow in rank, and as you grow as a leader, not, it doesn't get easier, it gets harder. You get more responsibility, more accountability, more people to lead, and there's all kinds of things that you have to do. And at that point, there's projects that you're in charge of as a project manager, and you start working later hours, and it's harder and harder to make that transition. and I remember just being frustrated, just coming home frustrated. I mean, it's not even road rage driving home because I'm just frustrated because there's so much I'm doing. How do I protect that boundary? And I found a tool. I went to the mental health clinic for a year because life was happening to me very fast in all spheres of my influence around me,
Sure.
home, work, finances, all of that. And that was a pressure cooker. Thankfully, it produced a diamond. I felt it produced more of diamond or even coal than anything else. It didn't destroy me,
Hmm.
but it was a real tough time. And I picked this up, and it was journaling.
Mm.
I
Oh.
was already journaling and taking notes on things that I was reading and studying. I was doing that at home. I've been doing that for 30 years, reading, taking notes, but I hadn't done this for myself. And I was journaling my emotional intelligence. I was identifying during the day, but the high where I was at my highest highs and my lowest lows in the day. And so I kept a journal at work specifically for this. So here's how it worked. Let's say it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just had one of those moments where I got frustrated. Maybe it was a last second email, a task, or whatever, and I just throw up my hands. I'm like, oh, come on. I would put in the journal the time. I would write the emotion, or today, because back when I was doing this, where I was working, I wasn't allowed to have a cell phone. Okay, we weren't using emojis back then either. So if you got your iPhone, you got a notepad, you type it. I would type in the notepad, 2 p.m. or military time, 1400 hours. And I would put next to it, I would just hit the angry emoji there and leave it. Then at the end of the day, when my day ended, about 30 minutes out, but most of the time I would work late anyway, because where I was at, traffic was always bad. So sitting in traffic for 30 minutes to get home, or sit at the office for an extra 30 minutes and be home in 10 minutes. To me, it was a no brainer. I hated sitting in traffic. So I would sit at the office, and in that 30-minute window, I would I would have my go through my routine of all of the work, the top 3 projects I was working, make my notes on a sticky note, put it on the project, set them on my desk to be prepared for tomorrow. So when I walked in, I knew exactly what I needed to do, what had been done, so I could get started right away when it was time. But then once I put that aside, I would journal for the next 30 minutes and journal those high points and low points. What was it that happened? How I reacted, or things that I did during that day that were really helpful to me, or impact, bullet statements on our annual appraisal reports, things of that nature. Jot those things down. And I would get all of what was going on at work from my head onto paper. And at the end of that 30 minutes, I would close it up, leave it at work, walk to my car and drive home. And I noticed that that was a big difference of me being at home and being present, because then I would walk in the door, go through my routine of taking off the super suit, get things ready. And then in that moment, when I would walk out of my bedroom in my Clark Kent clothing, just sitting, I was present for my wife and present for
Mm.
my kids, and I could be there with them. And then, if my wife asked me, "Hey, how was your day?" In our quality time together, I'd share some things that went on at work with her that I could.
Hmm.
But the kids, if you ask my kids, "Hey, what did your dad do for a living?" They probably couldn't tell you. In my military career, they wouldn't know how to explain it, because
Interesting.
I never talked about it with them,
Right.
because I didn't want to burden them with it either.
Mm. What I hear out of all of that is that you were protecting your children, protecting your home from the negative energy or from the negative challenges of work.
Hmm.
And you wanted to be so present at home, is that you found a system in place to help you not only prepare to walk into that home and be dad, but on
Hmm.
the flip side, also what I hear is that this process, this, journaling, taking that 30 minutes, it also helped you in your role as a senior master sergeant in your workplace, because you were so well prepared the night before that you said, hey, these are my big challenges. This is this is what I'm this is what still needs to get done. But you had that work journal in place so you could get back into work the next day. You could start the day with like, all right, this is what needs to get done. So I find so much
Yeah.
value in like, hey, even though we're talking about, how to be a better dad and how to be present at home, this is such a sounds like it's a great tool to also help you to be a better employee as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, because, we get bombarded with tasks. There's so many things to do. So if you set up a routine, I had a routine for when I woke up at my home.
Hmm.
Then I had a routine for when I got to work. Before I started any work, there was a routine when I got to my desk. Then I had a routine for when it was getting ready, like I described, going home, and I had a
Hmm.
routine for when I got home, and then I had a routine for when I went to sleep to prepare myself for the next day.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And that way that I stay those, and when I stayed in those routines, I was productive, and there were boundaries, and I was extremely successful and consistent. When I got away from them, you know what? The wheel went
Yes.
wonky. So,
Chaos.
yeah, absolutely, it was chaos, and there were some things that were just out of my control at
Sure.
times, but for the most part, I kept that routine all throughout my military career. Now the flip side of that is here I am. I pretty much work out of my home, coaching people virtually like this, and it's a little different because instead of leaving a physical office and coming home, I'm leaving my upstairs office and going downstairs.
Right.
And so I have had to adjust my routine a little bit because with my granddaughters here and there's other bedrooms up here, I've got to adjust those routines. And now I make it where my granddaughter's, she's turning 4. She'll come over here and knock on the door sometimes in the middle of things going on here teaching, or hope if she were to come up here right now and knock on the door, I would tell her to come in, and I would sit her on my lap, and I'd hug her and say, I'm talking to my friend John and everybody, all of his friends. She'll wave and say hi, and she'll turn right around and walk out. But I want her to know that my work is not so important that I can't take a minute to love on her and
Hmm.
acknowledge her. And because at 4 years old, she doesn't know any different. Now, if they're 10, I'd say, hey, I'm going to be upstairs for an hour with my friend John. Um, can you hold it down? And I'll be down after our show and we'll go get ice cream or whatever it is I've got planned for them. And they're like,
Sure.
great, Dad. And they know dad's in studio or dad's working, but as soon
Hmm.
as he's done, we'll spend time together. So I've
Mm.
really tried to work on that. Family's important to me. It's my core values start with faith and family, two F's. And when I've messed those up, I've messed up badly. And so one of the ways that I've created that family to be important is if they need me and the door is shut and they knock on it, I know that they need to be loved on or they need something, and I stop what I'm doing
Hmm.
and spend time with them because I can always pick this stuff back up, but
Right.
I don't always get that time back with them.
Right. You know what I like out of this discussion we're having, and I hope it's an encouragement to all new dads watching this today, is asking yourself that question: Who is my best self? Like, who is that dad? And
Mm,
we've all have had um, seasons where we've experienced that. I know what my best self looks like when I am following a routine and I'm disciplined and I'm determined and I'm focused. But when I stop that routine, I'm all over the place. It's chaos. So I
mm,
think this is such a practical tool for many dads to listen. Hey, you know, journaling is a great tool. It's a great exercise, but it's also it can help you to be that best self, that best dad, that best employee. And but also, I've heard of other exercises or examples of, your 15 minutes of taking off the uniform. For some, I know, before, if they've had a rough day, their process that maybe, they're gonna stay out in the car for 5 minutes before they walk in the door. They'll have their quiet time. They'll turn on some music, or whatever it may be, but it's their process. It's their system that they have in place so they can
Mhm.
be present. Because otherwise, if you don't have something like this,
Mm.
who, you know, it turns into that angry dad, that frustrated dad, that stressed out. You're barking at your wife, or you snap at her, or you do things because you're stressed out because you don't have anything in place to be the dad, the husband that you really, really want to be.
Right, and, and sitting in front of the TV or whatever, that it doesn't go away.
Right.
So having a system in place is so important, and, your kids, even there were some days where I got the dreaded phone call at work. "Hey, honey, your child did this, and they're waiting for you when you get home." I remember that dreaded statement, my mom saying, "Wait till your father gets home." And I
Hmm.
knew when that happened, oh man, that's not good. It's going to be rough. So those days when I had to come home and do that, my routine was absolutely critical to to
Hmm.
do that because I didn't want to come in and just let a bad day at work fester, and I take it out of my kids at home or
Hmm.
my wife in those moments.
Sure.
So that routine helped me get centered to focus on, okay, what can I do in this moment to my child needs discipline and talking to, but also how can I be present in this moment, not to let my emotions overwhelm me
Sure.
in those moments with them. And
Yeah.
so that routine was a barrier that helped me flip that switch to go from, okay, this is a teaching moment versus just you did something wrong, I'm mad, and now you're going to get in trouble for it.
Right. Right. Man, I mean, I'm learning so much out of this as a new dad is learning how to you know be present and learning how to really be so intentional about your own emotional intelligence and being aware that hey, you may have had a crappy day or stressful day, but you know I think it's important for you to know that about yourself and say, hey, I've had a rough day. What can I do to prevent that from taking it out on my kids? you know
Yeah, and the journaling really helped me with that because I wasn't doing that. If you would have asked me about it, when I first, I would have thought, I got a pretty good grip on this. I got a handle of this. Yeah, I can. I got the diaper thing down, and I can bathe the kids. And if I have to feed them, I can, and I know how, and I know how to play with them, and I know how to make them smile and all that. But if you'd have told me about my own emotional intelligence, and I need to read books on this stuff,
hmm
and take some of them online quizzes, get those courses, and journal, I'd have said, no, I don't need to do that. I got this. It was
mm,
just my own ego getting in the way, and this has helped me become so much better and so much more self-aware and also so much more aware, especially now as a pops. I see it in my granddaughter. There are certain things that I see in my granddaughter now that I never saw in my kids because I wasn't looking for it and I didn't know.
mm,
So getting on the front end of this, new dads, getting on the front of this, what you want to do is you don't want just in time training. You don't want to wait till the point where you need it. You want to front load it now into your mindset, into your habits of reading about these things and learning about them with you and mom together. So that way you can put plans together you can see it in your children and you can veer them in paths that they need or where they want to go because you're aware of their emotional intelligence,
mm,
because you're aware of your own. You see the patterns, you see the behavioral patterns. And I wish I'd have done that more back then. I'm seeing it now, and already just some of the things that I've learned and my wife and I have learned, we're already applying to our grandchildren. And it's
mhm.
so funny. I think my parents probably did the same thing, but my kids will say, "Oh my goodness, if we would have done this, you would have done that." We're like,
Right.
well, we've changed.
You've grown.
We've grown, and also, you know, we love our grandkids. We want our grandkids to have an enjoyable experience at Pops and Granny's house, not, oh, we got to go to Pops and Granny's.
Mm, right,
We want to
right,
create those moments where this is a safe place and this is a place of peace. So when you walk in, you can go,
yeah,
I'm at Granny's house. I'm at Pop's house.
right,
Or for my kids, I'm home.
right,
We don't
right.
want everybody to be on edge.
Mm. Well, Dennis, I took so much. I was writing out notes, and I look forward to this is such a good talk and good lessons, and I certainly appreciate you sharing your own wisdom and your own journey as being a dad and now as a pops, and so this is great stuff. Um, so thank you very much for letting me interview you and being on in the Mr. New Dad community. I think it's great to have people like you in your own inner circle or in your own community where you can ask these questions of hey, what was your biggest challenge of being a dad and how'd you overcome them? And these are exactly the types of conversations that we've been having inside the Mr. New Dad coaching course that's just been launched. Uh, Enrollment is currently open, so if you're looking for a community of dads, um, or an exercise or a program like Dennis was talking that can help front load you right now instead of thinking, oh, I'll just learn that on the job or I'll just learn that when it comes. That's the wrong thinking. I believe that doing work like this or doing coaching courses or anything that can help you to be a better dad today so you can be an awesome dad in 5 years when your kid is really going to need that dad. It's so important. So I'm really excited. But again, if that's something that you'd be interested in, feel free to message me directly or see the link at the bottom of the in the comments section. I'll be tying it to this. So, but Dennis, thank you so much for being here today. This has
No,
just been so rich, and I love the topic of having those boundaries, having that process, and even journaling. It's such a great exercise.
so good. John, thank you for having me. And here's a great question. You kind of mentioned this in the conversation, and I want to close with this question.
Sure.
Here's a great question that you could put at the top of your journal every single day. What would a great dad do?
Mhm.
What would a great dad do? And then answer that question, because everybody here that's listening to this, that's watching this, that gets into your program wants to be a great dad.
I
Nobody
agree.
nobody wants to be a lousy dad.
I
Nobody
agree.
wants to be a deadbeat dad.
Right.
We all want to be great dads. So write that question out. What would a great dad do?
Mm.
In fact, I would say write a paragraph about the great dad you want to be. And if you do that, just walk that out every day.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. I agree. Answer that question. And if you don't know how to answer that question, there are people like Dennis like out there will who can help you walk through that answer. You get clear on that answer
Mhm.
because it's such an important answer to have as a dad of knowing what is a great dad? What would a great dad do? It's a hard question to answer sometimes, but if you don't talk about it, you'll never get clear on it. So,
That's
all
right.
right. Well, again, if you have if wow, this has just been such a great conversation. I don't want it to end, but we are right at the mark, and so thank you for being here again, Dennis. And if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is, social media. I respond to my social media. So Dennis LaRue Jr. on Facebook and LinkedIn, Dennis LaRue Jr. You will connect with me on either of those. Just friend request me or be in my network or private message me on either one of those platforms and I'll respond to you.
Awesome, great. All right, Dennis, will you enjoy your week? And again, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you
Thank
so much, Sean.